A work session was held on a bill today in Augusta that is seeking to require testing and tracking in Maine's medical cannabis industry. Supporters call it common sense. Those against the proposal say it could lead to closures of businesses and harmful impacts on treatments. Keenan Mills has the story.
According to the Maine Public Health Association, out of the dozens of states with medical cannabis programs, Maine is the only one that doesn't require contaminant testing and tracking.
Again, we're talking about something marketed as medicinal, something that immunocompromised people are using, cancer patients are using. It is key that they have confidence that those products don't contain substances that will actually harm their health.
Testing for substances like pesticides, yeast, heavy metals, and mold, with the goal of aligning some of the standards with Maine's adult use system, which is an issue for some of those opposing the proposal.
Because there are too many loopholes and there are too many ways that it can be manipulated.
Tammy Smith with the Medical Marijuana Caregivers of Maine said that the organization is by no means against tracking and testing. Many of them already do, but some of these changes could be too costly for a small business caregiver.
A lot of the medical industry really does care about the patients, and we're not going to put them in danger by giving them product that we know is not safe.
Another piece of the proposal is to put a cap on the potency. MPHA says it's critical that patients not only know the product is safe, but being taken at the right dosage, particularly for young patients.
Especially if they're misusing it, if they're overusing, that can contribute to things like increased risk for anxiety, psychosis, like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia.
But Smith says when you are trying to treat things like cancer or nausea from treatments, putting a limit on it won't work for some patients.
When you limit the amount that a patient can have, you take away their ability to treat any type of illnesses.
The bill was introduced last year. Amendments were brought up at Friday's hearing that lift the requirements for small growers, also requiring speciated testing, which was a point of contention. The bill was tabled at Friday's hearing to be voted on at a later date. Keenan Mills, WABI News, Augusta.